How do you maintain your calm during uncertainty?
Is to just focus on taking the right actions, addressing that challenge.
What kind of leaders does India need today?
That India needs ambitious leaders.
Harish has been a prolific writer. He has written, if I am not wrong, Harish, correct me, more than 15 books. It is already there, credited to him. And a recent book currently, which he spoke about some time before, about doing the right thing, which is on Ratan Tata, has been a bestseller and is doing rave. I'm hearing rave reviews about that. But my favorite always have been, Harish, your book on curious marketers. I don't know. I still read it whenever I find time, because this is a very good book on most practitioners in marketing and branding. I have referred it to my son as well. You must read that. Harish, I have seen you writing in 𝗘𝗍𝗀𝗍, so it has been your passion. But just my question, when did it really begin?
So yes, Ranjan, I used to write in 𝗘𝗍𝗀𝗍. Writing has always been part of my life there. In 𝗘𝗍𝗀𝗍, I used to write for the campus magazine,
Right.
Camel Post.
Right.
And also for the annual magazine that was launched during our time called Cactus Flower.
Cactus Flower.
But I think I really started writing when I was in school. I used to write for school magazines. I used to write a couple of short stories which I submitted to some competitions. I used to try writing small middles for newspapers, not always successfully. And I always knew, I think ever since I was a school student, that I loved the process of writing. But when I joined my corporate career, I think for the first 20 years, like I told you, I was far more immersed in becoming an expert in the areas of sales and marketing, and overall immersed in leading brands and businesses within the Tata Group. So I really came back to writing in the way I wanted to only in my 50s.
Serious writing.
Serious writing. I would say late 40s or 50s. And I think the point at which there were 2 points at which it happened. One is when I started writing a marketing column for the Hindu Business Line newspaper. I must have been in my 40s then. And the second point of inflection was when I took a sabbatical from my role in the Tata Group to write my first book, which was called 𝗘𝗍𝗀𝗍, which was when I was exactly 50 years of age.
Okay.
So I would say these are the 2 points at which the interest and inclination to write got into a serious zone. And I think ever since I wrote my first book, 𝗘𝗍𝗀𝗍, after that I think writing has been integral and a very large part of my life over the last 13-14 years since that book has been published. And now, of course, I have retired from my full-time role in the Tata Group. So this gives me far more time on a weekday to write whatever I want.
How do you discipline yourself to write?
That's a very, very important question, Ranjan. Many people feel that writing is about the point at which inspiration strikes you and then you write. That's true. You need some inspiration for what story you're going to narrate or what book you're going to write. You need inspiration for what podcast you're going to make or what painting you're going to create. But according to me, more than inspiration, discipline is essential. How did I give myself this discipline? Over weekdays, I had no time to write. Weekdays were completely dedicated to my work in the Tata Group, and that's the way it should be, because that's a full-time job. I'm talking about during the time when I was in a full-time role. The only time I would get to write would be Sunday mornings, because even Saturdays sometimes went into clearing the week's work. Sometimes you were just returning from a market visit and so forth. But Sunday mornings, I would religiously sit down and write after breakfast. So I would sit down and then I would not get up till I had written 1,000 words. Okay, now those 1,000 words may be beautiful 1,000 words, or they may be stupid 1,000 words, or they may be mediocre 1,000 words. I don't know. I'm not commenting on that. But I would sit down at my laptop and I would write 1,000 words and then I would get up. And that discipline, I think, taught me that when you sit down to write, your thoughts start flowing. It need not be the other way. It need not be that you have to think first and write. The process of writing itself helps you to organize your thoughts and often also brings out your thoughts in a very, very nice and refreshing manner. So The other thing that brought about the discipline of writing, Ranjan, was the columns that I was writing for Hindu Business Line and for the Mint newspaper. Now, a column has a firm deadline, because if you're writing a column which gets printed in the newspaper on Monday morning, then you have to submit your article the previous Thursday or the previous Wednesday. Being a columnist also puts that discipline into you. You know that by such and such a date your editor needs the column, so you have to complete it and submit it. So these are, I think, two processes of discipline which helped me greatly with my writing.
You are a seasoned writer, but there are many leaders who are writing these days.
Yes.
Why do leaders write?
So I think leaders have a lot to tell the world. Leaders, by the very nature of their role, have worked for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And I think during those years, they have seen ups and downs. They have seen a lot of, a lot of successes and a lot of failures. And from there, I think leaders have learned. They have learned in a very practical way. I would contrast that with academics who have learned in an equally rigorous fashion, but they have learned in a very conceptual way. Corporate leaders have learned in a very practical way. And by writing, I think it gives them an outlet to distill those experiences and convey it to lots more people. So many more people can learn. I'm talking about leaders who write books on leadership.
Okay.
But there are also leaders who write books on a certain technology, or leaders who write books on behavior or a behavioral trait. Those also, I think, give a lot of information and insight to the reader. So I think it's really about what is the expertise and experience I have. And if I love writing, is there a way that I can convey this to many, many more people? Because if you're talking to an audience, you're talking to 100 people or 200 people. But if you're able to put it in writing, it can reach tens of thousands of people.
Very true, absolutely. And do the books emerge from observation or pain or curiosity or your eagerness or something of that sort? What of this?
So I think, Ranjan, a lot of the books that I have written have arisen from observation. I think observation and the curiosity to observe is very important. If you look at my book, The Curious Marketer, I actually say in that book that curiosity is one of the most fundamental traits that every marketer should have, but every leader should have, and every human being should have. So observation, I think, is the best source for a lot of writing. Because how much ever you are schooled in the concepts of the theory, what you observe of what has actually happened and of actual experience, from there I think come some of the best lessons that you can convey. Some books that I have written, I have interviewed others who have reflected on their observations. So in many ways, it is like observations coming to the fore, but coming through a different lens,
Primary observation, this could be a secondary observation.
That is correct. And of course, I think, the great books of fiction and the great books of literature, they of course, I think, always come from some personal experience and some observation which is very close to the writer's heart. Some of those observations may also be what you have described as pain, but that pain also comes from some observation or some experience that the writer has gone through. But at the end of the day, you need to have passion for the subject that you're writing about. You need to feel deeply involved. For instance, the book that you wrote is about simple leadership techniques, simple leadership mindsets that people can have. So obviously that is a subject which you are deeply passionate about, the whole subject of leadership and the whole subject of human behavior. But there may be someone else who writes excellent books, let us say, on archaeology. And they have to be very passionate about archaeology to write about the subject. So I think a good writer has to bring passion for his or her subject, has to bring a lot of curiosity and observation, and finally has to bring, shall I say, a love for the written word.
Absolutely.
Because the
love
process
and passion are
writing
requirements.
Because writing a book takes a long period of time. I don't know how long your book took you, but it must have been at least a year's time, if not more. So to dedicate that kind of time to giving birth to a book, you need to really have passion for that field.
Which of your books is closest to your heart? I know it's very difficult to ask, like a father asking, which of your children
so let me tell you firstly, I have published 8 major books.
Right.
And Each of the 8 books, I request my mother to rate them. So my mother is now 90, but she was 78, 79 when I published my first book in her late 70s. So she rates every book on a maximum score of 10.
Okay.
So my books, the maximum rating I have received from my mother has been 9.
Okay.
And the minimum rating has been 3.
Oh,
So
I'll not ask you about 3. 9.
Yeah, so 2 or 3 books she has said these are wonderful.
Yeah, okay.
Fantastic books. And 1 or 2, at least one book I know for certain, she has said, why did you even write this book? Okay. So that is her point of view. So I must say that my mother herself has very differing points of view about all the books I have written. But for me, Ranjan, I think a very special book will be my first book, 𝗘𝗏𝗀𝗀. I love all the books I have written, but since you're pushing me to a corner and saying pick up one book, so I would pick up 𝗘𝗏𝗀𝗀 because the first book that you write is also about doing something that you have never done before. And when I was writing 𝗘𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀, I did not know whether that book would be published. I was not a known writer at that time. I just said I want to write and I started writing it.
Okay.
The fact that India's leading publishers, Penguin Random House, found it suitable to be published itself came as a very, very pleasant news to me. And thereafter the book went on to be read by many, many people, has gone into several repeated reprints and has become a national bestseller. But because of that book, I was able to move with confidence towards my later books. And of course, I think it is one of the books which has rated higher in my mother's rating, not necessarily the highest, but higher in my mother's rating. So overall, I love the stories that I have narrated in that book. And I think it also set me on my journey to becoming an author, which is why I would hold out 𝗘𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀 probably as my favorite book. But I love all the books I have written.
Obviously. They're all your creations.
Yeah, whether it's a book of marketing or a book about history of the Tata Group or a book of fiction or a book of poetry, I think all those books have come out of me because I am passionate about them.
If I talk about 𝗘𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀, one story out of all the stories that you have, which is very close to your heart.
Yeah, so I think Tata Indica, the creation of the first Indian car, which I have narrated in 𝗘𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀, it's also, I think, the first story in that book, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
and that story is very close to my heart because it shows how Mr. Ratan Tata and his team in Tata Motors did something which the rest of India considered impossible. When Mr. Ratan Tata first stood up to speak in the mid-1990s to say, why can't we have a completely Indian car, a lot of people did not believe him. They thought that India does not have the technological wherewithal to make its own car. Yet, within a few years, his team and he delivered a car which was designed for Indian roads, designed for Indian families, made of Indian components, a car which wowed the world in India and became the best-selling car on the roads of India, and which eventually laid the foundations for a wonderful car and passenger vehicles business of Tata Motors. But more importantly, it also helped create an automobile parts ecosystem in our country, created so many jobs in our country. And it was a matter of pride to have, India's own car. India's own car.
Indian.
That's right. India's own car with us. So I think Tata Indica as a story for me is extraordinary. I narrate it in many places, but it's a story of contribution to the nation and nation building. It's a story of technological breakthrough. It's a story of ambition and doing something and pioneering, doing something that had never been done before. It's a story of, initially there were some quality issues with the Indica which had to be corrected, and it had to be relaunched as Indica V2, and then it went on to become the fastest selling car in India. So it's also a story of learning and course correction and delivering the final product. So there are so many learnings from the Tata Indica which make it an extraordinary story. And it's also a story that every Indian can feel proud of.
Yeah. That's right. And how, now you told you started writing serious writing at the age of 50. You still had your leadership role.
Yeah.
How writing changed you as a leader?
Writing, I think, made me more reflective as a leader. As managers and leaders, we are sometimes wedded to action. We always want to be in the midst of action, some new project, some new initiative, some new brand launch. leaders love being surrounded by action. Okay, and so was it with me. I'm not saying I was also caught up in that. But writing is a lonely discipline. It is you and the computer in front of you, or your notebook in front of you, and your mind. And your mind has to think and reflect before you write, because what you write will be there for everyone to read. So writing necessarily requires a lot of reflection, and I think the process of writing made me a more reflective person. The second thing is, with writing, it doesn't matter whether you have written one good book or two good books. Eventually, you are as good as the last book you write. So with writing, it also prepares you for rejection, because you may write something that you think is beautiful, but if people don't like it, it is a form of rejection. So every new creative product you make, I think this is equally true for a filmmaker, it's equally true for a artist. Every new product you make, you have to be open to how well the audience accepts it or doesn't accept it, likes it, rejects it. So writing also therefore helps you to cope with the fear of rejection and takes that fear of rejection away from your mind, because only then can you create fearlessly when you write. So I think both these things, making me a more reflective individual and also helping me to deal better with rejection and taking away the fear of rejection from my mind, writing has definitely done both these things to me. What it has also done, Ranjan, is it has, let me say, made me aware, even more aware of the power of good communication. Because when your communication is really good, you can see how people respond to it. And for many managers and leaders, I think they underrate the power of good communication. So leaders have to be very powerful communicators to their teams, to the inside of the companies, to their customers, to their other stakeholders. So writing actually has taught me that powerful communication can unlock so many things that are otherwise not possible.
Then what stops most people from writing? Many people have ideas, many people have
So
thoughts,
I find you're quite right. I find when I go to a conference hall or when I speak about my books, I find so many people there who want to write. And so many people do desire to publish their own books. In fact, I am told writing is one of the most desirable professions in the world. But I think essentially what comes in the way, Ranjan, is discipline. You have to discipline yourself to write. Writing will not happen because you want to write. Writing will happen when you sit down and start writing the first word. And you say, today I'm going to write so many words. So I think discipline and the ability to kickstart your writing with good discipline is what differentiates a person who wants to write versus a person who eventually publishes his or her book.
What would be your advice to the first-time authors?
I would say to first-time authors, choose a subject that you are an expert in and passionate about. If you're writing a business book, you have to bring your expertise to the table, you have to bring your passion to the table. And if you can find a subject at the junction of these two, I would say look at such a subject. If you're writing fiction, choose a subject which is very close to your heart, where a lot of your personal observations over the years, your personal experiences over the years can, inform the story and the flow of the book. So that would be one advice. The other advice I would have is create your own routine for writing. My routine was a Sunday morning 1,000 words routine. Your routine may be a late night routine. Your routine may be an early morning 5 o'clock routine. Your routine may be a Saturday morning routine. It doesn't matter what your routine is, but have a routine which then becomes part of your discipline of writing. That's second. Third, I would also say, Ranjan, focus on one writing project at a time. If you open up too many projects, lots of them may remain half done. So focus on one project and try to take it to completion. Don't be in a hurry. The first book always takes time to complete. Don't be in a hurry, but do a very good job of the first book that you're writing. So these are three things that I think I would leave behind.
These are all again golden words. You must have received, you told about Auntie's response to your book, but you must have received lots of response from the readers all across. I think you were so popular and all. So which one response from a reader touched you very deeply?
So I think when I wrote the book Tata Stories, which had 40 stories from the Tata Group, there was a young mother who wrote to me. And she said that these stories convey so much about values and convey so much about the right way to lead life that I have started reading them out to my young daughter at bedtime.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and these have become bedtime stories in my house. That letter was personally very, very touching to me. And even very recently, the book that I wrote about Ratan Tata, one of the readers wrote to me and said, I would love my daughter when she grows up to read this book, to understand what true leadership is about. And can you do me a favor? Can you sign my copy of the book so that when I give it to her when she grows up, it's given to her with your signature?
Wow.
So that touched me because if people are converting a business book into bedtime stories
Then,
for their children, then you know that you have really touched their hearts.
excellent. Okay. When history wants to remember Harish Bhatt, how would you like yourself to be remembered as a leader, as a thinker, or as a writer? What you would be?
I think, Ranjan, first and foremost, I'd like to be remembered as a good person who has done some good to the people he worked with, to the community around, to the world around. To me, that would mean much more than anything else. I hope that people will also remember me as, a person who has been able to add some value, both through the work I have done in the corporate world and through my writing. So between marketing and writing, I will not make a choice. I think both are very, very close to my heart. But on top of everything else, I will feel very happy if people say he lived a good life and he was a good man. I think that would matter the most. What you achieve otherwise in marketing or writing or leadership, I think it's all encompassed within that. Because if I have been a wonderful writer but I have not been a good man, I don't think I would be happy.